so we have been trying to go to the philosophy or phenomenology of Martin Heidegger. And yesterday we saw one of the salient features of being. And what is that most fundamental salient feature of being? What is the title?
Is the being in the world.
Being in the
Being is
world.
being
The
in the
world.
world.
The world.
Being is not anywhere else. Being is in the world. So that is the most important point. Dasein is in the world. So it is in the world. So I gave you the various aspects of being in the world. Some of you have sent me the homework of the different aspects or the various dimensions of being in the world. Shall we proceed then?
Yes, Father.
So, being in the world. And this is found in his which book? Which book are we analyzing now? Which book are we analyzing?
Being and time.
Being
Sein and
and
Sein.
time. Being and time. Not seen. Sein.
Sein.
Sein und Sein. So another aspect of being in the world, and I would say not just being in the world, another important dimension of being is that being is in anxiety. Being is in anxiety. Another word for anxiety is dread. Not bread, dread. D-R-E-A-D. Gleason must be thinking it is bread, not bread. Gleason, it is
Yes, Father.
dread.
D-R-E-A-D. Dread.
Ah, correct. Not B, D. William,
D.
it is D.
That
It is dread. So, dread or anxiety. This word has come earlier before. Who will remember who spoke about it? Who will remember and tell me who spoke about it? Dread or anxiety.
Kierkegaard.
Loudly, loudly.
Kierkegaard.
Very good. Who said that?
Kierkegaard.
Maybe Anthony.
Huh?
Stephen.
Steven.
It is Kierkegaard. Others have forgotten. Robin, you have
No,
forgotten.
Father.
It is Kierkegaard. Soren Kierkegaard spoke about dread or anxiety. And in fact, Martin Heidegger takes this expression and the meaning of this expression from Kierkegaard. Martin Heidegger was influenced by Kierkegaard. Now, Kierkegaard makes a distinction between fear and anxiety. I think I had told you also in the class last year. Kierkegaard makes a distinction between fear and anxiety. What is the distinction between the two? Fear is a worry where we know that there is a clear object of fear. There is a clear object of fear. For example, I am afraid of coronavirus. That's the reason why I don't go out. I wear mask and I wash my hands so that I may not get it. So it's very clear. I am afraid of coronavirus. Are you afraid?
No, Father.
No, Father.
Hello. So we are afraid. I am afraid. You may not be afraid. I am afraid. Jayant is afraid. Robin is afraid. And Stephen is afraid. Kevin is afraid. Joel is afraid. We are afraid. That's the reason why we protect ourselves. That is very clear. The object of our fear is very, very clear. Whereas in anxiety also is a sort of a fear, but the object is not clear here. We are anxious, but what exactly is the cause of my anxiety? So that is not very clear. That is called anxiety, where I am afraid, I am worried, I am tensed, or there is certain amount of uneasiness in me. There is certain amount of uneasiness in me, but I am not. There is no clear-cut object. It does not refer to this object or that object. That is the distinction made by Kierkegaard, and Heidegger borrows this distinction which Kierkegaard made from Kierkegaard. So Heidegger also says there are two things: anxiety. Another word for anxiety is dread and fear. Now, fear, it is very clear why and what I am afraid of, whereas anxiety, I am not very clear what I am afraid of. Anxiety is fear gets over. Once the object is removed, there is no more fear. For example, say that tomorrow people find a medicine for this virus. In another year's time, there will be certainly medication for this virus. After that, people may not be afraid. I know if I get it, I know I can take medicine. So I can get healed. It's not a big issue. So I'm not afraid. If you are afraid of darkness, for example, you are afraid of darkness, you can put on the light or you have a torch. So there is no more fear. If you are afraid of a dog, you can chase the dog or you can run away from the dog. So the object of fear can be chased away. Whereas anxiety we cannot get away from. Anxiety, we cannot get away from anxiety. It is a constant thing that is behind me. It is a constant thing that is behind me. Being is continuously swimming in the river of anxiety. Being is continuously swimming in the river of anxiety. That means anxiety is, it follows me everywhere. Anxiety follows me. My existence is an existence with anxiety. My existence is an existence with anxiety. So I cannot get rid of it. It is part and parcel of my existence. Anxiety is part and parcel of my existence. Therefore, anxiety need not be considered only from a negative perspective. You need not consider anxiety from a negative perspective. Anxiety has to be seen as an existential aspect of my life. Anxiety has to be seen as an existential aspect of my life, part of my life. It is an existential or part of my life. Anxiety is part and parcel of my existence. And one of the major causes of anxiety is nothing but, he calls it as nothingness. Anxiety about nothing. Anxiety about nothing, nothingness. What is this nothingness? Nothing means, the word nothing means no thing. Nothing means no thing. There is nothing means no, there is nothing. No thing is there. It is a sort of nihilism. Nihilism. Nihilism is nothingness. So what exactly it means? It means, in simple words, being is neither this nor that. In simple words, it means being is neither this nor that. Being cannot be associated with anything. Right from the beginning, I have been saying this. Being cannot be associated with anything. Being is not attached to anything. Being is not attached to anything. Or being is not caught by anything. When I am attached, what happens? I get caught. When I am attached, I get caught. Then I am not free. Then I am not free. I become a victim of what I am attached to. I become a victim. So being is not attached to anything. That is the meaning of nothingness. In fact, according to Heidegger, nothingness brings freedom for me. It brings freedom in me. So nothingness is not negative here. Nothingness becomes positive. So nothingness makes me totally free. I am not attached. So that is true what he says. When I am attached, then I am not free. Suppose you are attached to cricket, these days cricket. Without seeing cricket, you cannot sleep. You can't sleep. You want to see cricket by all means. You have become, victim of attachment. Suppose you are attached to a mobile phone. These days mobile phone has become necessary. But if you are attached, if there is no mobile phone one day, you will not sleep. You will not sleep. I can't exist without my mobile phone. Suppose you are attached to a person, I don't know who. Suppose you are attached to a person and that person does not call you that day, you will not sleep. You don't see that person that day, you will not sleep. That means, are you free or not free in that case?
Not free.
Not free.
Free or not free?
Not free.
Huh? Tell loudly.
Not free.
Dominic, are you free
Not
or not
free.
free?
Not free.
Dominic, are you there? Dominic is
Yes, Father,
attached to
here.
certain things. That's why he
No,
can't be
Father.
seen.
No, Father.
He's eating.
Not eating, Father.
See,
He's
if you are
attached to
attached
eating.
to Dominic, if you are attached to somebody,
No.
you cannot live without. Robin,
Food,
you are
food.
attached to somebody, then you cannot. That's why I said I must ask your mother. See, you get caught. You get caught. You get caught. As a result, so nothing means for Heidegger, in the eyes of Heidegger, when being is not attached to anything, that being is free. But that is so being lives in nothingness. Being lives in nothingness. That's why he calls it, those who live in nothing are those who live truly in being. Very important statement. Listen, not the prior statement. Those
Yes,
who
Father.
live in nothing, how do they live? They live truly in being with capital B. Can you repeat that statement, Gleason?
Yes.
Being lives in nothingness are the ones who are truly in being.
No.
Capital B.
That's why you made a big blunder there.
Those who
Huh?
I am repeating. You wrote what you want. Don't write what
Those-
you want.
Those who live in nothing, they live in being.
Something much better. I am repeating again. That's get the correct meaning. Those who live in this nothing, those who live in this nothing are those who live truly in being with B capital, are those who live truly in being. Listen, read again.
Those who live in nothing are the ones who live truly in being.
Now
Capital
you are
B.
much better.
Yes, Father. Thank you.
Yes. So in simple words, it means that if you live in nothingness, you are very close to the being. Be capital. If you are not living in nothing, then you are very far from being. If you live in nothing, then you are living truly an authentic life. If you are not living in nothing, then you are living in inauthentic existence. Am I clear?
Yes, Father.
Yes or no?
Yes, Father.
Yes, Father.
Balaswami, are you there?
Yes, Father.
Did you understand what I'm talking?
Yes, Father.
Suppose in simple words, ordinary words, it means that when you get attached to something, somebody, whatever it is, then you are not authentic to yourself. You are not free. You are not free. You are not authentic to yourself. Whereas when you are totally separated, disintegrated from everything else, then you are truly to yourself. Then you are true to yourself. Then you are true to yourself. So that's a very important. Therefore, anxiety is always there in our life. Anxiety must be there. So anxiety is not taken here negatively, but anxiety is taken as a necessary aspect of our existence. Anxiety is taken as a necessary aspect of our existence. Denzil, are you writing down? Please write down. Anxiety as a necessary aspect of our existence. After some time, the connection may go. I will come back again. Okay, don't run. Huh? Don't run. Hello.
Yes, Father.
Yes,
This
Father.
is
Okay,
indicating
Father.
that time is running out. I will come
We will
back
run.
again
No
with
problem.
another connection with this one. Okay. I will come back. Don't go. Vipin, are you there?
Okay, Father.
The next aspect of being in the world, or another aspect or another dimension of being, we said being in the world, and I said various aspects of being in the world. You add that, the various aspects of being in the world, and also write very well about being and anxiety. And the next aspect is being is temporal. Being is temporal. Temporal. That's why the title of the book is Being and Time. Being and Time. So being is temporal. That's another major side heading we see. Being is temporal. What is the meaning of being is temporal? Being is temporal means, first of all, we live in a history. We live in time. There is nobody who lives outside time. Is there anybody among you who lives outside the time? Nobody lives outside
Dominic.
the time. Who?
Dominic.
Dominic.
Dominic has disappeared now. He is
Yes,
outside
Now,
the
Father.
Father,
time
I am
now.
here only. I was
Okay.
listening.
Sleeping.
So everybody lives in time. On a particular day you are born, and on a particular day you say goodbye. That's all. On a particular day you are born, and on a particular day you say, okay, I'm going, finished. End of the story. So nobody lives outside the time. We live in a history. All of us live in a history. We don't live outside the history. The time has three aspects: the past, the present, and the future. So, past, present, and the future. There are three integral aspects of time. So I have a past, I am living in the present, and most probably I will have a future. So all of us live in these three dimensions of history. The three dimensions of history. So being realizes itself in time, meaning to say being unfolds itself, actualizes itself. I'm using various terms. Being unfolds itself, actualizes itself, becomes what it is or what it should be, becomes what it is or what it should be in time. Nothing happens outside the time. Even when you sleep, you live in time. You don't live outside the time. So we actualize it ourselves. We grow. We become what we are in time. Am I clear?
Yes, Father.
Denzil, am I clear? Am I clear or not? I can't hear you.
Yes, Father. Understood.
Now you are dozing there. I can see your head is going down. Put your head straight. Good. Now you get better air. Breathe well. So we live in time. And one of the important aspects of living in time, what he calls being lives in time, and being is for death. Death is an inevitable aspect of human life. It is a necessary aspect of human life. So being in time is being lives in death. Being for death. Our being is always for death. Death is an essential part of our existence. If birth is the one end of our existence, death becomes the other end of our existence. So death is part and parcel of my existence. Death is not an outside element. Death is not an outside element. It is part and parcel of my existence. So if I encounter death, then I should not be shocked. I should not be surprised. I must say, well, death has come. I must say, that is part of my life. That's part of my life. So it is the end part of my life. It is the end part of my existence. So death is not a stranger or should not become a stranger to me. Death should not become a stranger to me. It should become part of me. So Heidegger makes a very profound analysis of death in his book Being and Time. Somebody can write a one page about the concept of death according to Heidegger. You can refer books or any articles and see the concept of death according to Heidegger. That would be a nice, this one. That would be a very nice. Any volunteers? The concept of death according to Heidegger. Think about it. If there are volunteers, that would be good. Please, Glanson is ready. He's a very intelligent fellow. So he will write Glanson. Then you pass it on to us, Glanson, okay? If you can type it, that is the best. Or send somebody who can type it. Most probably we are going to lose connection in a couple of seconds. But I am coming back, okay? I will come back. Dominic, I am coming back.
Okay, Father.
End this here.
Okay, don't run. In couple